Hey, what's going on, family? Hope y'all doing good, man. Shalom, peace and blessings, greetings and salutations. This is Dreville here at Set Apart Gardens. So today I'm coming at you with lesson number 2. So we're doing this series as far as lessons that I learned from being a homesteader, right? And so the first lesson was you can't rush the process. And excuse me if I'm looking down at my phone. I got my notes on my phone. So the first lesson was you can't rush the process, right? And we went deep into it, man, and I just really expressed to you all, as far as me learning, as far as the period of time that I've been homesteading, you can't rush anything. You can't make nothing grow. You can't get ahead of the creator. You can't pretty much make things happen in the time you want it to happen, because if you do that, pretty much it's going to be like manipulation, right? Because you got people who they genetically modify stuff, all that good stuff. So we went into that. So lesson number 2, man, and I was just thinking about this as I was actually playing a game of chess, right? Because I play chess, and it's a saying that we hear all the time: it's chess, not checkers, right? And so that came to my mind. I'm like, that's lesson number 2. It's chess, not checkers, right? And so we're gonna get into it. We got major points to hit, but realize it's and we're gonna break it down to the point to where it's not really cliche, because we hear that all the time. People say it all the time. You see it on Facebook, people saying, oh, it's chess, not checkers. The people who saying that don't even realize or know how to even play the game of chess, and don't even realize the depth in that statement, right? So let's get into it. So the first topic, and I'm gonna read it from my phone, so forgive me, y'all. Knowing how to move and knowing what moves to make, right? When you playing a game of chess, you have to know, first off, because this is the thing, when checkers is very easy to play, right? All the pieces are the same, you can move them all the same way. But with chess, you have literally different pieces that serve different purposes, that move in specific ways. You have your pawns that can only move in a certain direction, whether it's 1 square forward, 2 squares forward to start off with, and they can move diagonal one square if they're taking another piece, right? So that's your pawn. Then you got your rooks, which are your castles. They can move as many directions, they can move as many squares as they want, straight ahead, backward, or straight across, right? Then you have, so you got your pawn, you got your rook, then you have your knights. Your knights move in the L shape. They can jump over pieces, right? So they can move 3 squares up, 1 over, or 1 over, 3 up, right? So it moves in the L, right? Then you also have your bishops, which move diagonally, as many spaces as they want. They can go forward, they can go backward, but they're moving diagonally. Then you have your queen, which is the most powerful piece on the board, which can move diagonal, straight, any way she wants, as many squares as she wants. Then you have your king, which can move 1 direction in each space. Now the king is the most important piece on the chessboard. The queen is the most powerful, the king is the most important, because once the king is captured, the game is over. The queen can be replaced and the queen can be taken and the game still go forward, right? So I'm saying all, and that was just a little crash course. I encourage you, if you don't know how to play chess, go learn how to play it. But anyways, it's the same thing as far as what I've observed with farming. Knowing how to move, right? So knowing how to make moves, knowing what to learn. You see what I'm saying? Knowing how to do certain things, whether it's gardening, whether it's butchering, whether it's husbandry, learning how to move, learning how to do those things, but also learning that different things serve different purposes on your farm, right? You may have your animals that serve a purpose to bring you food. You may have your dogs that serve a purpose to protect your animals, which is to protect your food. You see what I'm saying? And then you got your garden, right? Then you got different things like that, as far as that serve different purposes. Then you got your tools that's going to help you build the structures for your animals, right? So it's just a lot of different things that work together for the overall goal, which is self-sufficiency, self-sustainability, right? you know, you got your well, you know what I'm saying? Or if you got solar panels, you got your solar panels. You got the skills as far as how to build, how to survive, how to hunt, how to fish, how to upkeep. You see what I'm saying? Just a lot of different things that you want to know how to do, but you want to know the right time to do these things as well, right? So you know how to garden, but at the same time you got to know when to plant. You see what I'm saying? you know how to slaughter and butcher, but you got to know when to do that. When is the right time? When is the right season? And that's something actually my uncle taught me, because he owned the farm back in the day and stuff like that, and he used to raise hogs and stuff. And he was like, you know, nephew, what you got to do, you got to wait till it start getting cold out. That's when you want to butcher your meat, because you can kind of, you know, like say my screened in area over there, right? Say if I were to butcher something, you know, in the dead of winter, I can leave it hanging and it won't, you know, decompose or it won't rot, because it's cold outside. The elements are favorable for that, you know, specific purpose. That's what a lot of people did back in those days as well. They would butcher things in the winter time, you know, whether it was a hog, whether it was a cow, goat, sheep, whatever, and they would let it hang, because you got to think, it's no mosquitoes, it ain't no flies, it's cold outside. You see what I'm saying? So knowing when to butcher, or whatever the case may be, knowing when to make certain moves, knowing how to move and knowing when to make certain moves, right? That's lesson number one that I learned, because this is the thing. You can, okay, let's say I want to introduce cows onto the homestead, right? First off, I have to know how to move, how to operate, how to raise cattle, right? Then I want to count the cost. I want to weigh out, okay, what purpose is it going to serve? Do I want cows for milk? Do I want cows for meat? Do I just want to get, you know, a dual purpose breed and just start raising them and start building my own flock? And how many do I want to start off with? What would be wise for me to start off with? How many acres do they need to be on? How many, you know, am I going to do rotational grazing? You see what I'm saying? Am I going to do a permaculture method? What am I going to do? Am I going to just let them free range out along the whole property? You see what I'm saying? And then I got to get their shelters built. Do I want to do a barn? Do I want to just put up, you know, some little shelter where they could just get out of the sun or get out of the elements? How do I want to do that? Knowing how to move and knowing when to move. What's the wisest move? What's the wisest decision? Because you can make a move, right? And in chess, they call it a blunder. You can make a blunder where you didn't map out everything. You didn't look at the whole board. Because when you playing chess, you got to look at the whole board. And that's why chess is really a game of strategy, because like I said, you got so many different pieces on the board that all move different ways and serve different purposes. So you have to make sure before you move, you're not in the line of fire for a certain piece, right? Because I may want to move one square up, but I'll be right in the firing line of a bishop. You see what I'm saying? Or I may be in the crosshairs or whatever the case may be for another piece to come and take my piece. So it's the same thing with farming. If you move too fast and you don't weigh out all the options, the pros and the cons, and go about it the wisest way, then you can introduce something on your homestead and it end up dying, or it end up burning a hole in your pocket because you didn't realize, okay, raising cows, it's gonna take more money, because you got to make sure, because first off, it's a bigger animal, so it's going to require bigger feed. If your pasture isn't enough, you're going to have to supplement with hay, you're going to have to supplement with pellets, you're going to have to supplement with grains, and that's going to be a lot. And you're going to need more than what you would need for a sheep or a goat, because a cow, they can grow up to be over 1,000 pounds, 800 pounds, 500 pounds. You see what I'm saying? A cow can grow up to be that big. You see what I'm saying? So you want to count the cost before you make the move, right? And once you've seen all across the board, once you've counted the cost and you say this is a wise decision, then you can make that decision with peace, and it won't backfire on you, and it won't be a blunder, because you knew how to move and you knew when to move. So that's the first, kind of subcategory, as far as it's chess, not checkers. Because in checkers, You just moving one, one square up. You jumping pieces. You back jumping. You trying to get to the end of the board to get a queen and all this type of stuff. And the game isn't really about thought. It's about going back and forth. It's about, it's about impulse, right? It's a little bit of strategy in there, but mainly it's impulse. So that's the first, the first. All right, so the second subtopic, I mean, I just hit on it pretty much, but it's thinking things out before impulsively acting, right? And I'll give a specific example. When I wanted to do goats, right? And we went in, going on Craigslist. And see, this is a thing that I knew better. As far as not to do this, but going on Craigslist, because at this particular time I wanted to raise boar goats, boars. So went on Craigslist to see what I can find, and we stumbled across what was listed as a boar goat, and the price was, you couldn't beat it. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm like, okay, these don't look like the typical boar goats that you see, but I mean, they kind of favor a little bit, whatever the case may be. So long story short, we ended up getting those goats. It was 2 of them. We bought a male and a female. Now, red flag number 1, we went to this place. It was up in South Carolina. I want to say it was near Charleston, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, we went to this farm. First off, this guy, he was, going through a divorce or a breakup or something like that. And he was just selling all the goats, right? And, he didn't know what was what and all this type of stuff, because his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend had listed it, but she wasn't even there. So he didn't even know which goats we were talking about. I had to show him a picture, so he didn't even really know. And so long story short, it was a lot of red flags, leading up to it. This guy, he didn't know how old the goats were. He didn't, I'm asking him about deworming. How often do you deworm? What do you do? He didn't know any of that. You see what I'm saying? And so, long story short, we ended up getting those goats anyways, and we brought them home. And lo and behold, the goat started getting sick. The male that I had, he got sick. You see what I'm saying? Almost about to die. So I had to, help him. I made a video about that. So I had to, go buy a supplement to help him. And, he ended up pulling through. So these goats were, I'm assuming they were, adults at least a year old, because of the size and everything like that, and how long he said that he thought they had them. So, they were sexual, mature age. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to be breeding. You see what I'm saying? Because we just got 2 to start with, because we want to start our flock. So long story short, we kept those goats together. We had them right here in our backyard. Those goats were back there for well over 6 months. I want to say it was even longer than that. And the goat never got pregnant. They never made it. And I'm like, what's going on? Is this, this buck that I got, is he sterile, or is she sterile? What's going on? So long story short, man, I end up butchering them, because I'm like, we feeding them every day. We putting all this money into them. They keep getting sick. They keep escaping out of the, out of the fence. But not only that, they're not even reproducing. And I don't even know if they can reproduce. But all that could have been avoided if I didn't act so impulsively. And I could have taken the time to search out a good breeder that had some sort of credibility. You see what I'm saying? And I could have got a sure product. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with a dog. You never want to go to a backyard breeder, or not necessarily a backyard breeder, but just someone that, they don't have good practices, and you seeing red flags. You don't want to buy a dog from them. You don't just want to go buy a mutt or a dog that you don't know there's no papers on, there's no DNA testing on it, or nothing like that. You don't even know if this dog is 100% the breed that you want. You see what I'm saying? You got to do the same thing with all of the animals, whether you're getting goats, sheep, cow, whatever the case may be. And so that's one thing I've learned as far as just the strategy in buying animals. Make sure you go to a reputable breeder. The last sheep I bought was a male ram, right? I bought him from Goat Road Farm. The video I did with Miss Abby from Goat Road Farm, I bought it from them. And guess what? When I went up to their farm, it was, their operation, when I talked to them, good conversation. They actually, they had processes to where they stood behind their product, right? They had integrity. You could tell that they were legit. You know what I'm saying? So I knew I was getting a good product. And guess what? I have seen dividends. You see the new lamb I got. You see what I'm saying? So he's working back there. That's all I'm gonna say. So that just goes into not acting impulsively, because when you're playing the game of chess and you act impulsively, you make detrimental mistakes, right? You lose some of your most valuable pieces because and this is the thing, right? In chess, it's not just about the moves you want to make. You have to look at the moves the opponent is making, because they may be setting up an attack on you, and you're so busy trying to set up an attack for them when you should be playing defense, when you should be countering their attack, getting your pieces out of the way of the traps that they're trying to put you in. Before you can even think about making an offensive move, you got to play defense right now. It's not a turnover yet. You got to wait till it's a turnover. Just like in football. You see what I'm saying? The two teams on the field can't both be playing the same thing, offense or defense. You can't have two teams that's just defense. No, there's one that got the quarterback on the field and they playing offense, and you got one that is playing defense, trying to stop the offense from scoring. It's the same thing in chess. You have to pay attention to both. So you have to look at everything, and that's here on the farm as well. You want to always, okay, you want to see, am I playing defense right now? Am I playing offense, right? Do I need to be preparing, whether it's for the growing season? Do I need to be deworming my animals right now? Do I need to be buying more animals right now in this specific season, right? Whether it's a lambing season or a kidding season for goats, right? Do I need to be buying more ewes right now so I can have, a lot of lambs come springtime? And if I do that, am I able to take care of them? Do I have all the necessary things? Do I have the necessary structures built, the necessary fencing, the necessary medications just in case, things go wrong or whatever the case may be? Do I have enough food for them to, to sustain for the mothers while they're feeding, while the kids are feeding? Do I have enough of that, right? So do I need to be preparing? Am I on the defense right now, or am I on offense? Do I need to be trying to prevent something from happening? Okay, hurricane season is coming up. Do I need to try to prevent things from happening, right? Okay, let me kind of look at the weather. Let me see is any kind of storms or any kind of droughts, or do I need to be trying to prevent something bad from happening? I need to be checking, my local listings to make sure stray dogs aren't out, or, make sure that my animals can be safe. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm about to have, little lambs and stuff like that running around, or chickens, or whatever the case may be. So I need to make sure I can protect my animals, make sure I can protect my investment. So I'm saying all that to say, don't act impulsively. Sit back, watch the whole board. Understand how to move, when to move, and understand, okay, am I on offense right now? Am I on defense right now? Do I need to prepare for something? Do I need to prevent something? Do I need to make a move on something right now that's urgent because I need it, because it may not give me dividends right now, but a year from now, it'll give me the increase that I'm looking for. You see what I'm saying? Do I need to buy baby turkeys right now, so come, Thanksgiving time, if you celebrate the holidays or whatever, or the holy days, this feast coming up, that feast is coming up, you see what I'm saying? So I can have this, have that. You need to be thinking about that type of stuff, man, but don't act impulsively. There was a course that I went through, Dave Ramsey, I forget, I think it's called like Every Dollar or something like that, but it teaches you how to budget pretty much. And so in this course, you have the DVD that you watch, and so he's teaching on there, and one of the lessons that he teaches is that, okay, if you ever want to make a big purchase, right? Let's say you're out and about and you're looking for a car, you're looking for some furniture or appliances, and you're shopping around and you see something that you really like, don't buy it right then. Go home, let it marinate, sleep on it, right? Maybe let a few days go by, but at least sleep on it, think about it. And then if you still feel the same way the next day or the next 2 days or the next week, then go and get it. You see what I'm saying? Because whereas you would have, if you would impulsively bought it, then the interest rate could be high, and you know, just all, or you could have found a better brand or whatever the case may be. You don't have to worry about that because you slept on it, you thought about it, you weighed the options, you didn't act impulsively, and now you can have comfortability and peace with the decision that you've made. So don't act impulsively, right? That's the second subtopic, or whatever we want to call it. All right, so the third subtopic in this lesson, understanding that every element or piece has a specific role. In the game of chess, like I explained it earlier, every piece has a specific role. They have, you know, whether they can move this way or that way, you know, this is kind of the purpose that they serve, right? Even in real life, you see what I'm saying? You know, a lot of militaries are structured based off of chess pieces, right? You got your castles, or you got your bishops that do this, or you got your knights, which is your cavalry, you got your queen, which is your advisor, and then you got the king, which is the top of the head, and then you got the pawns, or the foot soldiers, right? So every piece has a specific role, just like every element of your farm or your homestead has a specific role. And I kind of, you know, went into that earlier, where I talked about whether you're raising, you know, your sheep or your goats or your cows for food and milk. Then you got your dogs for protection, you got your chickens for your eggs, you got your turkeys for meat, you know, or you got your breeding stock, you got your stock that, like, specifically with chickens, right? And I go over this in the video that I made about chickens 101. You got chickens that are dual purpose breeds that you are raising for eggs and for meat. You got chickens that you specifically raising for meat, like I do. You see what I'm saying? Where I will get 50, 30 to 50 Cornish crosses, and I will raise them for 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, feed them up, and then slaughter them. They're raised specifically for meat. Then you also have your egg layers that you raise specifically for eggs. Then you can also have your breeding stock that you raise specifically to reproduce whatever it is, whether it's the egg layers or the meat chickens or the dual purpose breed. You want to have a breeding stock. Same thing with turkeys, right? You want to have your turkeys that are dual purpose, whatever, you know. Then you also have your breeding stock, right? I mean, we don't necessarily depend on turkeys for eggs, but you can also do that as well, because turkeys lay slightly bigger eggs than chickens. So you can raise turkey for eggs specifically, but for the most part, people usually raise them for meat and for breeding stock. So everything has its specific purpose, even down in your garden, right? You have, you know, your plants that you're growing for food, but then you also have some plants that you're growing beside it that's assisting those plants that, you know, that is growing your food. But then you can also plant some plants that ward away insects and ward away pests. You see what I'm saying? So everything has a specific role. Just like if you're a believer, we, you know, are all in the body of Messiah. We're all in the body of Christ. And somebody might be a finger, somebody might be you know, the torso, somebody might be the heartbeat, somebody might be the foot, or we all have a specific purpose. And you have to understand and be wise enough to understand what serves what purpose, and, you know, how to capitalize and maximize off of that, right? So understanding that every piece is important, every element of your farm and your homestead is important. Some serve more vital purposes than others, but they're all important. So make sure all of the different elements are getting the respect they deserve, but also realizing what energy to put into what element of your farm or your homestead, right? Because, you know, your animals or your sheep or your goats, right, they may need more attention, right? Your garden, you can water that one time a day, but you might need to go do some pruning on your fruit tree, or you might need to do some weeding in the garden, or you might need to build, you know, better chicken coops for your chicken. You see what I'm saying? Or you might need to, you know, make sure your dogs are, you know, up to date and up to health and all that good stuff, so they can protect it all. And then also making sure that you know, have protection for you as well in the form of a weapon. Make sure you know, you got the weapons and different things like that. Understanding, you know, you got to master a lot of your skill sets, learn different things, so, you know, you can give everything that you're responsible for the best quality of life that it can get. So understanding that every element or piece has a specific role, right? And capitalizing and maximizing off of each role in it, and how it, you know, plays out on your farm or your homestead. All right, and the last point or subtopic or whatever we calling it is beginning with the end in mind, right? So I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching this video, who's farming and homesteading, you started out with a vision. You got inspired and you saw something, or you heard something, or whatever the case may be. You were inspired by someone, and now you're out doing the very thing that inspired you. But before you started, you had a vision of what you wanted it to look like. Because, you know, we all in this farm or garden community, you know, we all have similar interests. We have the same interests, but we have different visions of what it looks like, right? So you may just want to garden, you see what I'm saying, and grow all your vegetables and just keep a few chickens. Whereas me, I want to be totally self-sufficient, but I only want to raise certain animals. I don't want to raise pigs. I don't want to raise goats anymore. You see what I'm saying? I don't want horses. There are certain things I do want to grow. I might not want to do the permaculture method. I might just want to do, you know, traditional in-ground gardening. But we all have a similar vision, but it's specific to what we want in our desires. So when you begin, excuse me, y'all, my nose itching. I don't know why my nose be itching like that. But when you are starting off, when you go and buy that land, or you know, you start, you know, to build those raised beds for your backyard garden, and you decide you're gonna do a garden, begin with the end in mind. Because when you're playing chess, you can get caught into they call it the middle game. Or is it the middle game? Yeah, I think that's what they call it. But you know, it's basically the heat of the battle, the mid game, right? So many people get caught up in that and trying to catch this piece or catch that piece, that they forget they're supposed to be trying to checkmate the king. So whereas, you know, and this is a mistake I made playing the game of chess, you know, at certain points, I'm trying to capture their queen, right? So I'm trying to do all these things and all this and that to get their queen, because the queen is the most valuable piece. So if I knock the queen off, then it'll make it a lot easier to get to the king. But you could spend too much time trying to get the queen, and now you've missed opportunities to checkmate the king. So I'm saying all that to say, you can get so caught up in the day-to-day, everyday hustle and bustle that you forget what you're doing it all for. You forget about your vision because you're in the grind, you're in the middle of it. You know, you're doing the gritty work, and it's frustrating, it's tiring, it's hard, it's tough. You see what I'm saying? And you question, man, what am I doing this all for? Or you focus so much on the minors, you focus so much on the everyday details of the chores and this and that. You're trying to perfect the little things when you're forgetting about the overall vision that you had, because it wasn't just just one direction. It was multifaceted. You had different things you wanted to do. You had this vision where, okay, I want to raise bees for honey. I want to be a beekeeper. I also want to be, you know, in husbandry. I want to raise animals. I want to, you know, have dogs, livestock guardian dogs. But I also want to have fruit trees. I want to have a fruit forest. I want to have vineyards. I want to breed my own chickens and my own turkeys and my own sheep, my own goats. You know, I want to, you know, have solar panels. You know, I want a garden that produces 80 to 100% of the food, vegetables that I eat. Right? I want to get all my fruit off my fruit trees. I want to make sure this and that. I want to learn these skills. I want to do that. Whatever your vision looks like. And this is what you started off with. This is what you had in your mind starting off. But as time has, you know, passed and different things like that, and you started on the process, now you're in the mid game, and now you're putting way too much into, you know, different elements, and you're neglecting other elements. And now, you know what I'm saying, whereas this is the vision you had, now you're starting to take things off of that list and say, well, you know what, I'll just be satisfied with this and that because this takes too much work. Whereas if you would have started, you know, at a pace that you can handle, then you could have went from this project to that project and that project, and you wouldn't have been so spread thin. Because Proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you plan the things out, if you understood all the pieces in there and how they move, if you understood, okay, the objective, the end in mind is to checkmate the king, or the end in mind is to be self-sufficient totally, not depending on anything or anyone, then you would have saw what the end looks like, backtracked and planned based off of that, and then started executing your plan in a wise manner, in a wise way. And that would have prevented the burnouts. That would have prevented, you know, the frustration and all these different things and just the distractions. It would have limited all of that because you sat down to actually think about everything and view everything, because you started off with the end in mind. So always remember, we all get in the grit and the grind, and we all get in those hard places where it's just like we doing mundane things every day, and you know, it just seemed like I'm just getting up and doing chores and you know, all this different stuff, or I gotta build this and this, you know, all this type of stuff, right? When you are in the thick of it. And people who own land and own homesteads and farms, they understand what I'm talking about. You know, remember in those times what you're doing it for. And to help you do that, before you start, plan out. Plan it. Plan what the end looks like, backtrack it from there. So that way, and they call that reverse engineering. Reverse engineer it, see what it takes, and then that way you can establish a plan and you can move based off of that plan, and you won't be burnt out. You won't be tempted to just give up on your vision. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man, those are or that's the second lesson rather, is chess, not checkers. So now, at least if you didn't know how to play chess, you know how to play it a little bit now. But it's a cliche saying, you know, that people say all the time, but when you start to actually play the game, or when you actually start to understand the game of chess, then you understand, yeah, man, this is chess. Life is chess. Your career is chess. Your farm is chess. It's, you know, making the right moves, knowing how to maneuver, operating in a wise manner, and not being so impulsive, but taking the time to think things out, taking the time to strategize, right? Because when you strategize and you say, okay, I'm a buy 10 fruit trees this year from a nursery that may be, you know, not babies, but you know, whatever the case may be, they could be bearing some fruit already, or about to bear fruit. I'm gonna buy 10 fruit trees and I'm gonna plant them here, here, and here, right? And then this is what I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna grow this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And you can plan all of that out, and then when it's time to reap the harvest, now you're reaping the harvest because you took the time to strategize. And then you said, okay, well, I'm gonna add, you know, 2 more flocks of chickens, right? So I'm gonna do 2 flocks of 10, right? I'm gonna build 2 chicken coops for this upcoming year, and I'm gonna do them you know, 20 egg layers, right? And so now you're getting 20, you know, give or take a few eggs a day. Now you ain't got to worry about eggs. Then, okay, each quarter, or which is every 3 months, each quarter, I'm going to raise 30 Cornish cross or meat chickens, right? I'm gonna raise 30 of them. So that's 30, 60, 90, 120. That's 120 meat chickens in a year for your family. And then you say, okay, I'm gonna raise 10 turkeys, you know, each quarter, or whatever the case may be. Now you got your turkeys, and then, okay, I'm gonna add this amount of, you know, females to the flock, right? And I'm gonna put up this, I'm gonna put up another paddock of fencing, and, you know, just planning it out, man, taking the time to plan it out. And then come time for harvest, now the harvest is exponential, because now you got all your meat, you got all your vegetables, you got your fruit coming in, you know, you got your grapes coming in on your vineyard, you got your berry bushes, you know what I mean? You just got a lot of different things, all because you took the time to plan it out. And it wasn't expensive because you moved at your own pace and you did what you could. The first year might not be a big harvest. The second year might not be a big harvest. The third year might be a decent harvest. The fourth year might be your best harvest. So, you know, up to date. But taking the time to really strategize and treat it like a game of chess it'll be rewarding for you in the end. So if this made sense, man, you know, let me know if this making sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I just be talking and I just really be getting my thoughts out to y'all. But this is really a lesson I learned that I reflected on playing the game of chess. So I hope it blessed you guys, man. If you know how to play the game of chess, you know, drop a comment down below, man. Let me know if I'm on track with my thinking. But I pray this blessed y'all, man. If you don't know how to play the game of chess or whatever the case may be, but this video blessed you or benefited you, man, leave a comment about, you know, the lesson that you took from this lesson. You see what I'm saying, man? If you ain't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Only if you mess with the content, you like what we doing over here at Set Apart Gardens, man. But I appreciate everything. Yeah, like and subscribe to this video, man. Share it to somebody if you feel like it'll benefit them. Like I always like to say, if you give somebody the power to feed you, you give them the power to starve you. Peace.